Welcome back to the Grim Workshop. On the last video, I showed you how to take a trash resource and a survival card and make an improvised alcohol stove. Now, if I'm making a stove for cooking or for camp use, that is always going to be my first choice, but the problem is alcohol is not always available. So in today's video, we're going to be using the Hotshot card as well as a trash resource, and we're going to be making a twig stove. You have a lot of different options for what type of container to make this twig stove with. The bigger the container, the better luck you're going to have. So if you have a small soup can and that's the best you've got, you can make do with it. If you find a larger can like this, or even the industrial number 10 size cans, that's going to be my first choice all the time. You can also use a metal bucket or a clean discarded paint can. Now you may look at this big can and think, I'm going to use this for a cooking pot instead. I'll just build an open fire and I'll use this to cook in or to boil and clean my water. Well, that's not always the best idea. I've got some friends of mine that used a pot similar to this during a survival class, and they were all peeing blood before the class was done. So these are lined sometimes, and that lining is just not designed to be exposed to heat. Now the advantages to a twig stove over an open fire is I've got all this heat and it's going to be funneling straight up out of the top of the can. It's going to be really controlled, and that's really important in an urban situation, or if it's wintertime like this and you were using this to heat a shelter. So really any cutting tool would work fine with this. I'm going to use the Hotshot card just because I've got the ability to not only make the can but light the fire as well. So let's clean off my work area here. So I'm going to cut a series of air holes right along this bottom, and then a corresponding set right along the top. And I'm not going to get real fancy with this. I'm basically going to make a slice down at an angle. Then a slice down at another angle. And then real carefully, I'm going to go ahead and push that in. This little knife is definitely up to the task. I got no edge damage whatsoever from this. Now when I do the top of it, I'm going to make my point the other direction. Here's all our air holes. And then with that top all cut the same and turned in, that lets me take a smaller pot and I'm still able to support it. So the next thing I got to do is cut a window to feed fuel. So I'm going to make a slice down and then 2 slices over, and that's going to hinge open. Now, if you're using one of these to heat your shelter, you'll want to burn this thing outside first because, as I mentioned, these cans can be lined sometimes, and it's best just to burn that off outside of here. Now, you can obviously control your burn a little bit just by turning it in or out of the wind. Now, you're getting good ventilation all the way through, but if you have this door pointed into the wind, you're going to get probably the highest burn and the most heat you can out of this. So I've actually used one of these before in the middle of a major city, just using pieces of a broken pallet. So this is a true survival skill. You could cook on this. This time of year, my main concern would just be keeping warm. So with that, you don't have an open fire. You can put this out if you need to. You can transport this if you need to. This is definitely a skill that's worth learning, and it's worth practicing using the tools that you carry.